Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news as Man United face a big shock in relation to what they can get for Garnacho. Also, Ruben Amorim is offering up an apology on the pitch today. The players and Amorim will do a lap of honour. I say lap of honour, it's not. Don't read it like they want applause. It's tradition. He will speak to the crowd and he'll offer up an apology. What are your thoughts on that? I've got some quite strong opinions on that. Also, a few rumours that Cunha deal done could have been happening today. Look, they're going to drop it at some point, aren't they? Obviously they are. And some rumours that Luke Shaw's been told he can go. That Onana's been told he can go. Look, honestly, these sources are not great. Lap of shame, yes. We'll get into all of that. But apologies been a bit late this morning. I'm literally still got my coat on because Seb had a match early this morning, which it was nice to watch a team I support win and play well and score lots of goals. They won 8-3 and they played some good stuff. It was quite refreshing. I don't think we're going to get that later on for the watch along, but at least we get to see who gets Champions League football. Villa, Chelsea. I feel like all those crap teams that we used to play in the Sir Alex era, who used to get us playing at their place and lifting the trophy. I feel like today that's literally as good as it gets. We get to see if Villa celebrate Champions League football. I don't know. Anyway, let's start off with the news. Let's talk off with Man United's chest is cracked open. Surgery is about to start, says Herman. Sell them all. Can't trust them to play anymore. So frustrated at the same cycle all over again. Changing managers like socks and useless owners, says Mr. Yee. What is the situation with Onana then, Mark, says Jimbo. The situation with Onana is the situation that we broke exclusively in the international break. You know it. If you're a regular watcher of the United Stand, Liam Delap, Man United's priority, we were first. Semenyu's not on our menu, we were first. Yoro and Delay will be finished for the final, we were first. Onana has been told he can leave in March, we were first. And we had another one. What was the one we had? Oh, Garnacho's leaving Man United Thursday morning. We were first. So, look, I don't know how long this is going to carry on because the club are probably going to grab hold of this at some point and go, how are they getting so many inside bits? But, look, if it dries up, it dries up. If it doesn't, it doesn't. With Onana and Garnacho, let's start off with Garnacho, and I'll talk about Onana. With Garnacho, the big problem around United at the moment with Garnacho, Chris Wheeler put an article out last night saying Man United wants 60 to 70 million for Garnacho. I think realistically, as we discussed yesterday, because we have publicly played out this fallout between Amorim and Garnacho, which is appalling. However you look at it, whichever side you back, that is absolutely amateur hour again. We will do well to get 40, 45 million up front. Now, what I've been told is that wets the lips. Those lips, they haven't got the other lips, of Sir Jim and, well, I don't know, maybe they do. I mean, I don't know what they identify as, but they're at Pratt's. But Sir Jim, Joel Glazer, Ineos, etc., they're quite excited about £40 million for Garnacho because it's £40 million pure profit. He's worth more than that, but they don't see that price drop as necessarily a bad thing because they just like the idea of 40 million quid. I think the problem United had was the fan base being okay with it. And in January, I think the vast majority weren't okay with it. But now, a lot of people are okay with it. So United's stance privately really is, if they get 40 million, great. Because in January, if they'd tried to do that, there would have been uproar. So United are actually quite comfortable with the fact that 40 million, I mean, they don't understand football. So they're not going to be sat there going, oh my God, we could have got 70, 60, something like that, and now we're getting 40. They just see it as 40 million quid. So I expect Garnacho heading somewhere like Napoli for 40 million, 45 million, with some add-ons built in that if he moves somewhere else, we get 20% or something like that. So that's what I think will happen. And I think United will bite the hand off for that. Could we have got a little bit more? Yeah, but ultimately, we're not getting 60 to 70 million pounds. And I think the fact that there are a lot of people that would do this deal anyway now, that's the big win for Manchester United. What about Luke Shaw, Mark? I mean, the source of the story is just not great. It's the same person that said, well, they can't say here we go because it's not Fabrizio Romano, but it's the same person that said that the deal for Cunha is done. It's a 3-year instalment, 20 million a year. no, €70 million deal on a 3-year instalment or something like that. 5-year contract, obviously. That same, is it Nicola Shearer or something like that? Apparently, Luke Shaw's been told he can go as well. I would hope that we're going to get some really big statements about players that should go. I was listening to what he said to Beth after the match in Bilbao. And you know what? I was listening to that interview from Luke Shaw, and I think if you hadn't seen it before, you'd probably buy it. I saw somebody, not looking down, miserable at the end of the day. And, you could almost feel empathetic and sad. I had to turn it off because you know what? If I could find it, I've definitely heard this before. We've got to look at ourselves. The fans come out here and support us. Thank you so much. We've got to look at ourselves. Some of us, are we good enough to be at this football club? We've got to look at ourselves really, really down in there, and it's not good enough. And I'm just like, but I don't. Luke Shaw was crying apparently. I don't care. So plenty of kids were crying, and they had nothing to do with the outcome. I don't really have any time for. We've got to take a long, hard look at ourselves. We weren't good enough. Maybe some of us aren't good enough. This is not a player. I don't really give a toss what a player says. Whether it's Bruno, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, De Ligt, it doesn't matter to me. When they come out and go, we've got to take a long, hard look at ourselves, I sort of go, no, you don't. That's not your job. That isn't actually your job. The manager needs to take a look at you and get rid of you. It's not your choice. You shouldn't even be thinking about that. You should be thinking about your own performance and what you're and doing your job. I'm not interested in these senior pros coming out and going, we've got to take a long, hard look at ourselves and this, that, and the other. No, you haven't. You've got to be told you're either part of the plans or you're not. And if you're part of the plans, you perform. And if you're not, you're not. We should be moving Luke Shaw on because he's broken. He's never gonna stay fit. And the big concern for me about Luke Shaw is he's not even played well since he came back. But he's got a 3-year contract. So I don't know whether Luke Shaw gets told to go anywhere, because where would he go? And would you pay him off? I think Luke Shaw will stay around. It's interesting how, and I've observed it as well, I think since him getting himself fit for the Euros final, he's probably had the easiest ride this summer from the British media I've ever known. And you think about Garnacho, and you think about Bruno, and you think about Rasmus, and you think about Onana, and you think about De Ligt, and you think about Martinez, and you think about a whole host of other players, Anthony, and how they've been jumped on this season at various points, justifiably. And Luke Shaw's been given a complete and utter free ride. And I do sometimes think, hold on a minute, the press never say anything about Luke Shaw. And yet they get, well, I'll stop there. I'll stop there because it's unfair to go where I'm going to go. But they never say anything about him. But they're more than happy to, target 20-year-olds and 22-year-olds and, foreign players. But they never say anything about Luke Shaw. And that player probably deserves more criticism than most this season. I mean, he even did the bloody TikTok thing, didn't he? Imagine if Garnacho had done the bloody TikTok thing. Your mum's on benefits. So I just think that, there's a whole clear out that needs to happen at the football club, and it shouldn't be victimised. An open conversation needs to be had. But I don't trust this football club to do it. I think they will get rid of Garnacho because it's pure profit. They will get rid of Rashford because he's on a big wage and it's pure profit. They will get rid of Anthony because he's actually got off his arse and gone and played well somewhere else, so we're lucky there. We will get rid of Sancho because he's basically not worth anything now. He's been here long enough. And we'll consider selling Bruno because it's a massive amount of money. But they won't get rid of Luke Shaw. They won't get rid of Mason Mount. They won't get rid of Casemiro. They won't get rid of anybody that's actually difficult to get rid of. We'll keep all of them. We'll get rid of the easy players to get rid of where we can make some money. That's what I think will happen. So I don't expect Luke Shaw to be going anywhere. As for Onana, a few people talk about this morning. Look, I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a hell of a lot of people out there making stories up. I think we've had 2 this morning about Luke Shaw and the Cunha deal. I don't think that there is anything majorly to worry about that David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano won't get. Like, we will get this stuff and information. And if we get something, obviously we've been in the game for a decade and we've had stuff in the past, and sometimes you do get a good line in. But with Onana, look, I don't know what Amorim will do with the team today. I don't know whether he'll give it a kick up the arse or not. I don't see a situation where Onana doesn't start the game today. I don't see why he wouldn't start today. I mean, why wouldn't you start him today? If you're trying to sell a player like Onana and it's not a fallout, then you would put him in the team, you'd put him in the window. He's got himself a new agent. What we were told in the international break in March was this, and the situation hasn't changed. Ruben Amorim likes Onana as a person, but he wants his own guy. He feels that there is a good goalkeeper there, but it's not working. And his players that he wants don't really trust Onana. He feels it's Ten Hag's guy, and the way he wants to play football, goalkeeper's a really important position. And he needs a goalkeeper that he trusts and his team trusts, and he doesn't have that with Onana. So he basically wants to move Onana on, and that has been relayed to Onana. Obviously, Saudi's been there. We're talking from March here. We've had this chat before. But all this Onana's leaving, this, that, and the other, well, that is no update since we had it in March. Because the bottom line is, and this is fact, Onana knows Amorim wants to move him on, and Amorim has told everybody he wants his own guy. The question is, can he get his own guy? And it's the same with every position, isn't it? Can he get the striker he wants? Can he get the midfielder he wants? Can he get the players he wants gone? If Onana doesn't go, then we will get a replacement for Bienda because he is going to go. But what price the new goalkeeper will be depends on what happens with Onana. But when you look at this United side, I do agree the Chelsea experiment is very true. I think when you look at Chelsea, they've got an abundance of good players, but they don't have a good goalkeeper and they don't have a goal scorer. A good goalkeeper stops goals going in, and a striker scores goals. They are two really big contrasts. I don't see, and I throw it to you, I don't see next season how we cope with Onana in goal. That doesn't mean he won't be in goal, but I don't see how we cope. I think that I'm old enough, and some of you are old enough, to remember that being in goal for Manchester United, for some reason, takes enormous discipline, belief, and ability. Regardless of where you are in the league. It does. It doesn't matter whether you're fighting for titles or you're where we are now. Like, it doesn't matter. And Emi Martinez would be a good signing, Logan, but I just don't know. I'd love it to be true, but I just feel it's a load of, and a lot of transfer stories, we are just being used. But I look at Onana in that cup final, and it's got to a point where, well, it gets to this point anyway, but what happens is your love for the club leads to frustration. But I look at that final and I can't watch it back, but I remember bits. There was a point where Yoro wants him to sweep a keep and he won't come out. There's a point where Casemiro's having an argument with him because he won't come off his line. There's crosses coming into the box that, even Jordan Pickford would come and collect, and he's not coming for them. He's booting it long instead of playing out from the back. He hasn't got the reactions. I even think the goal, there are certain goalkeepers that would save that. I'm not saying every goalkeeper saves that goal, but I think there are certain goalkeepers that have quicker reactions that get down and save that. He's not far off it. When you watch that goal back, he's not that far off getting there. So a player with quicker reactions would have got there. So there's a big list of reasons why you need a goalkeeper that instills confidence. I've noticed it with Harry Maguire for weeks. He is not confident. And he's not the only one. That Mazraoui, De Ligt, certainly Yoro's only young. There is no confidence. And when I go back to Man United, when David De Gea was winning the Player of the Year every year, we maybe could have had a season like this without De Gea. I remember one specifically where I felt that without De Gea, we'd have been right down in the bottom half, and we didn't. So it is important. I'd bring De Gea back tomorrow. You know I would. I'd bring De Gea back tomorrow. But that's a step backwards. That's like the people who want to potentially keep Bruno, isn't it? I watched yesterday's Espanyol match. Juan Garcia single-handedly saved them from relegation. Apparently, Naveen, that's the player Villa are going for. Marlo says, good Sunday. What's your opinion on player after player looking average at United and world class when players leave, says Marlo. Well, I think I know what that's all about. Impossible to perform. There is a barrier at Manchester United, and I know people want to talk about whether that's because players are good enough or not, but I think there is a barrier to perform that needs to be knocked down. Yeah. I'm so sick and tired of overpaying for shit and giving away our youngsters for peanuts. Is Blank still on the board, or what happened to him? Sack this board and Glinios Garnacho will be a big regret, says McCree. Watching the old Sunderland documentary feels like looking in the mirror. Very scary, says Thomas. Why don't we sell all the players, bulldoze Old Trafford, buy out FC United and start again, says Mr. Brightside. Very apt name. Hi Mark, who would you bring in Onana's replacement? What are your thoughts on Mignon to replace him? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's not something that I spend a lot of time like looking at goalkeepers. I mean, I completely agree. I think a personality like Emi Martinez would be good, but this is where scouting comes into it. Like, we need to go and get a goalkeeper that's like can play out from the back, but fundamentally is a goalkeeper. They come for crosses and they make saves. We've been historically bad at selling players, says John. Mark, do you not feel that these players deserve to get dragged across the world to play 2 friendlies? I think they deserve it after this pathetic season, says Sean. Whether they deserve it or not, it's fundamentally not good for them to be missing out on a week of rest at the end of a hard season. That's the problem I have with it. Any ideas if the World Cup will affect signings this window? World Cup's next year, Happy Monkey. I think you're talking about the Club World Cup. It will make things happen quicker. Going to the game today, driving up from Birmingham, book tickets before Europa final. It's going to be a long day, says Mohammed. Well, I'm going to talk about that in a minute because there will be a speech from Amorim and there will be a lap of honour afterwards. The worst ever Man United Premier League side. The worst ever Man United performance in a European final. And they're going to do a lap of honour, or a lap. And people will applaud it. And, you know, you sort of think that, I think people will applaud it out of manners. And fair play to those people who do, because it's only manners that is going to get those players applauded and that manager. It's a horrific season and they don't deserve the steam off your own piss, really, if we're being honest. But manners will give them that. I want to talk about that in a minute. Amorim sold loan 25 players in his first window, says Ryan. Man United's chest is... I've done that one from Haman as well. Herman, sorry. Sell them all, can't trust them play anymore. So frustrated, says Mr. Yee. So frustrated of the same cycle all over again and changing managers. Glenn says, we still have so much deadwood in the team. I fear that a lot of them will remain beyond the summer and longer due to nobody else wanting them. Apparently, Sheikh Jazim still wants United, says Mohammed. Dara, welcome to Members Club. Everyone looks confused, says Keel. Bot's a new member. There is Costa at Porto. I like the idea of Costa, but he would cost a lot. Mads, thank you very much. Duwald says, if I'm honest, it does seem like you have a shift in confidence in this manager. Your tune, in my opinion, has changed in backing him. Yeah, but Duwald, you can't live your life like that. You can't watch me and go, Goldbridge is Amorim out because his tone has changed. I mean, I don't lie. So if I'm Amorim out, I will tell you, I'm really not that bothered. And actually, I think that sometimes being first isn't a bad thing. Like, we were first with Garnacho leaving on Thursday. I was happy to put that out there because I trust the source. But you're first with something like that, you can get a little bit of backlash. I don't care. I'll say it how I think, and I'll say what I think. I'm not Amorim out. I think sacking a manager is the worst thing we could do right now, because what was the point? What was the point in this season if you sack a manager before a pre-season and a transfer window? But this is probably what you're picking up on, Duwald, to be fair. I don't like a lot of what's going on at the moment. I don't like what he did on Wednesday. I don't like the behaviour around Garnacho because it's cost us money. There's a lot I don't like at the moment. And ultimately, that doesn't mean I don't want the managers to be successful and I don't back the manager. It just means, like most of us, hey, breaking news, there's not a lot to be happy about at the moment. So I can't sit here, Duwald, going, Amorim's the guy, Amorim Bull's coming, we're cooking. You can't. Well, you can, but I can't do that. So I, at the moment, as I said, I feel quite liberated. I feel like a weight's been lifted. I feel like up until the Europa League final, I was telling everybody, Premier League doesn't matter. Premier League doesn't matter. It's all about winning the Europa League. And we didn't win the Europa League. So that weight of sort of carrying, just got to fight against this Amorim out movement, this, that and the other. I just sort of feel like now, if you want to be Amorim out, go for it. I said this to you on Thursday morning. There is no opinion that you can be criticised for at the moment. If you're Amorim out, if you're certain players out, if you want to sell Bruno, if you're really angry with Sir Jim, like no one can tell you you're wrong about that at the moment. I just think overarchingly, I'm confused, like Keel says, I'm confused about what the football club is going to be, and we're still confused. And as I said yesterday, you've got Ruben Amorim saying, we've got this game against Aston Villa and then we need to sit down and sort out what we're going to do. Hold on a minute. Why have we got to wait till after Aston Villa? That game means nothing today. We win it 6-0, we lose it 6-0. It doesn't really change the situation. We're still terrible and in big, big trouble. Liverpool are deep in talks with Kerkez now. They've already got Frimpong and Wirtz. Now they're getting Kerkez. Our biggest rival is Liverpool. They've won the league 20 times. They've now got Frimpong, Wirtz and Kerkez basically nearly done. And we're waiting for Villa. And we're miles behind. That's what's annoying me at the moment. But look, this is what Ruben Amorim had to say in the embargoed section. Simon Stone has said that Ruben Amorim will offer an on-pitch apology to all fans at Old Trafford today after the game. What are your thoughts, actually, about this on-pitch apology, just before I go through some of the stuff he's said? I've got to be honest, take it or leave it. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, great. I'll tell you what I think. It's like, it's the person who borrows my car and writes it off and then says sorry. You know, okay, we're still friends, but I'm massively pissed off with you. It doesn't bring my car back, does it? Thank you for saying it. I appreciate the fact that you are remorseful. But I don't feel any better. I'm not going to say, forget about it. It's fine. It doesn't matter. That's sort of how I feel about it. I feel like, yeah, you've got to do it. Thank you for having the manners to do it. But it ain't making any difference to me, mate. It doesn't make me feel, it's fine. Because guess what? You're not the person who should be saying fucking sorry. You're not the person who should be saying sorry, and you're not the person who can change it. You're just a puppet. You're not the person who's caused Man United to be where it is, and you're not the person that gets us out of it. And people will go, well, surely he is. He's the manager. No. If Amorim says, I'm sorry, and next season we're going to be back, I don't believe him. And I'll tell you why. Because if he's got the same squad, he ain't doing nothing. And those words mean nothing. If next season he's got 6 or 7 players and he's cleared house, maybe we are back. But he doesn't do that. He's not the guy doing that. And also, he's not the guy that's put us into £1 billion of debt. He's not the guy that's spent 12 years sending this club into the sewer. So his apology falls on deaf ears. I say thank you to Ruben for having the morals to apologise as the manager, but you're not the guy who needs to apologise. Bring out Sir Jim. Bring out Joel. Bring out Barada. And also, while they're apologising, can they tell us what they're going to do to make us get better? And that's what I feel about the apology. This spin bullshit that we have to keep putting up with. Why is the manager of Man United apologising? What is he apologising for? What power does he have to change it? Every United fan I speak to at the moment is like, look, this Villa game, it means nothing. And the first game of the season means nothing if what happens over the next 3 months isn't good enough. And the people who drive what happens over the next 3 months ain't Ruben Amorim. And that's what annoys me about this. I have got no problem with Ruben Amorim apologising. But why are you apologising? Since when were you the fucking owner? Since when were you the CEO? Since when were you involved in charge of the bloody transfer funds? You are, at the end of the day, the same as Pep Guardiola. If he hasn't got the money at Man City, he's winning fuck all. Arteta's winning nothing. Anyway, but he's not going to build anything without the people above him saying, go ahead and build. There's the bricks. So the apology is sort of irrelevant because it doesn't change what happened on Wednesday. It doesn't change what's happened this season. And it doesn't fill me with confidence for next season because you ain't the guy that's going to change it. The guy that needs to apologise won't even speak to us. But look, Amorim did have a few other things to say about transfers. He said, we've got a rule. It's not just the manager who chooses the players. It's a mutual decision. No player comes here without my agreement, but the reverse is true. So effectively, I think that's quite an interesting insight into transfers at Man United now. So let's take Liam Delap. That player doesn't come to Man United if Ruben Amorim doesn't want him. But on the other hand, Gyökeres doesn't come to the club if Wilcox doesn't want him. So that's what he's basically saying. They have to agree on the players. Amorim can't overrule the board and the board can't overrule Amorim. So what you'll basically get is the board's in charge because basically Amorim will say, I want Gyökeres. And the board will say, we can't afford him. And then the board will say, we can afford Delap. And then Amorim will say, I don't want Delap, I want Gyökeres. And then the board will say, well, we can't afford Gyökeres. So Amorim will have to negotiate down and get Delap. That's how it's going to work from now on. Everybody glazes out, but the fans isn't doing anything. That's the sad part, says Dylan. There is protests today. It'd be interesting to see, what happens with that. I think a lot of people are going to be keeping an eye on Bruno Fernandes as well, whether there's any tears or anything like that. I don't know whether we'll be able to read anything into it today. And what I will say is if Bruno Fernandes is leaving, they should have announced it before the game. I think he deserved that. So I'm not so sure that he is. He may be apologising to an empty stadium if it's after the game. Love the show as always, says Darren. I don't think it will be empty, mate. I mean, there is something about our fan base, and you can come up with the words, because you can't really criticise people who take their time and spend their money to go to Old Trafford and watch games of football. But there is something about this football club that unbelievable. I find this unbelievable. I'm not saying in a bad way. There'll be 75,000 people there today. And, God knows how many thousands of people will be watching the watch-along. It's just, this is what, we could be great. This football club could be great because when it comes to our fan base, we are up there with Real Madrid. But unfortunately, when it comes to our ownerships, we're up there with Rayo Vallecano, Morning, Mark. And I don't even know where they are. Morning, Mark. It's the owners who should say sorry. It's the crap who Radcliffe got into bed with. If only we could do something to get them out, says Tracy. And look, people don't pick up on that. Why is the manager saying sorry? Was it the manager that sacked Ten Hag after spending 300 million quid after 2 months? Was it the manager who got parachuted into a shit team that can't play his system and then only got one player in January? No, it's the owners. They should be apologising. JE says apologies. Why apologies FC? Why try to win games when you can just apologise for losing? Look, I don't accept the apology. I think that's the point you're probably making there. I don't accept the apology. I couldn't give a toss about it. In fact, I don't even want the apology. I don't want an apology. I want a plan for what we're doing. I want to know what's happening. I want to know what we're doing. I want strong words. Supporting the club as a 30-year-old dad while my son adores these frauds feels like the devil's finest trick, pretending he's not real. Rotten club, says Andres. Honestly, the CEO and owners should have spoke up by now, says John. We've got the worst CEO in the Premier League, and for some reason I thought we were getting in a real scoop. People were telling us, what a scoop. Oh, Man City fans, oh, yeah. I don't think Man City fans gave a toss that we got Barada, and you can sort of see why. Crap CEO. Maybe he's a good CEO, but perception's everything. Crap CEO. Absolutely terrible CEO. Colin, welcome. Thank you for gifting a membership. Mojo's in the house. Hope you're doing well. I would love James Trafford or Diego Costa, says Sean McCalley. And after the match, I think we will get Cunha. Here we go, says Naveen. Could get it before the match. Could be tomorrow morning. I mean, they've got that in their back pocket. That's a little bit of a, get out of jail card. Curtis7 in the house. Hope you're doing well, mate. Blast from the past. I remember your FIFA streams. What are the chances of you doing the Malaysia end of season watch-alongs? We will do them. I have been asked this. Thank you very much, Curtis. I hope you're doing well. We have been asked to do this. I'll have to get you on a show, pal. I'll have to get you on a show. we will be doing the watch-alongs because they are at a time of the day where literally I will have the match on and we'll probably just have a big Q&A. Then they're not things to be excited about. I think it's just sort of like, you know those little TikToks you get where somebody's saying something and then the bottom half is like random gameplay. I feel that that's what they'll be like. We'll be having proper meaningful conversations and the game will be going on. They're not even as good as pre-season. You know, team selection should be players to sell youth as well, says SJW. Garnacho will not be involved today at all, by the way. No surprises with that. I think we basically said that on Friday anyway, but yeah. And look, can I just say as well, the source on the Garnacho story leaving isn't Garnacho or his brother. A lot of people have been going, oh, it's Garnacho or his brother. It's the same source who told us about Yoro. It's the same source who told us about Delap. It's the same source, so it's not that. It's a very good source. Sometimes it's Ruben Amorim. It's not. Sometimes I just want to work hard, become a billionaire and buy this club, rebuild it, and most importantly, kick the Glazers out, says Tanai. If there are any billionaires out there that watch Manchester United and watch the United stand, please do buy our football club. More like a lap of shame, says Rahan. From theatre of dreams to theatre of nightmares, and a manager who thinks we're better with a better team on Wednesday. What game was he watching? Steve, if on his apology he says, I think we're unlucky on Wednesday and we were the better team, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to say, really. Thoughts on starting youth players like Obi, says Dara. The trouble is, mate, I would do that, but we're probably going to get battered. Villa are a good side and they want to get Champions League football. I sort of want Villa to get Champions League football over Chelsea anyway. I don't want them to win, but they're going to come and try. We still have so much deadwood in the team. I feel that a lot of them will remain beyond the summer, says Glenn. Thank you very much. Darren says, hi, he may be apologising. Sorry, come back to that, Darren. Did you see how physically strong Agate is when he got shoved off against West Ham and stayed down? We need that against Spurs. We need that against Spurs, says Orange. I sense your sarcasm, mate, and I don't want to go down that road of singling out individual mistakes, decisions, or anything like that. Look at the league table. Look at what happened on Wednesday. Look at the debt, and you're talking to me about Agate, whether he's physical or not. Maybe look at the stats. Agate across Europe in the last 2 years is one of the best interceptors of the balls in Europe. So I think we did need that on Wednesday, to be honest with you, mate. But I'm not going to get into a debate about it. Mason Mount was absolutely shit, and so was Bruno. So I find it hard that maybe even if Agate did have a bad game, you know, it wasn't like Bruno or Mount did a good job. Surely they at least let Garnacho say goodbye to the fans, says Mark. I don't think that's a good idea, because the way football is at the moment and the way they've played this out, he could get booed. So, you know, I don't think that happens. I was driving to Manchester. I searched my way to Old Trafford on Google Maps. It replied, even Manchester United don't know where they are headed, says Mojo. Imagine if he went out there and spilled all the truth and put Glinios under the bus and walked, says Sean. I would love it. Mark, Amorim solved his problem party with loan players. What are our options? Says Hitchin saying that he got loan players in at Sporting. I know the way out. You know the way out. We need to buy bloody good players. That's what we need to do. Thoughts on starting the youth, says Dara. I feel the match against Villa will likely be a loss, but starting the youth could see positives for the club. Not if they get battered, though, mate. It can damage the youth, can't it? No matter if you back the manager or not, every manager will fail anyway. Everyone against the manager needs to shift it to the ownership, says Cameron. I agree with that. Should Amorim compromise on the system if he doesn't get the players he wants, says Keel. What a waste of time, though, Keel. You know, imagine that. You bring a manager in with a system and then say, we can't get you the players. Can you change your system? You may as well walk. Football Blood says, being in Malaysia, I'm not even in the mood to watch our players playing here after what happened. I'm so hurt with our club situation. Thank you, pal. He may be apologising to an empty stadium, says Darren, if it's after the game. Love the show as always. Well, look, I've got to say, and we've got 21,000 people watching here at the moment. I think that just shows what an amazing community we've got, but also the reason we've got so many people watching is because we are waiting for what many of us know is needed. We need a bit of guidance, we need a bit of leadership, and we need some action. And I think people are very frustrated at the moment, and I think they want to talk. And I think that's why so many people are tuning in and so many people are having their opinion. And that's why we're having so many good conversations, because there are decisions that need to be made, and we're lacking that leadership again. We mentioned this last night. This time last year, to the day, we won the FA Cup final. That makes me feel sad, because when we won that FA Cup final, I felt like we'd escaped. We got away with it. We've got a trophy. We're back in Europe. That could be a pathway to the Champions League. It felt a year ago like we might have just got away with it, having finished 8th in the league. We didn't know how good it was. Imagine some voice had dropped down in the match reaction when we won the FA Cup final and said, guess what, in a year's time, you won't even get 40 points and you'll lose a Europa League final to Spurs. You'd be like, shut up. You're pissed. You might be from the future. You're pissed from the future. Back to the future. You're absolutely pissed from the future. What are you talking about? Well, it's true. It's true. And this time last year was when we had that period of we don't know whether we're keeping Ten Hag for 2 weeks. Fast forward a year, and again, we've got an ownership where we've got no leadership again. No, the manager's coming out to apologise. Where's the CEO? Where's the owner? And I've got to be honest as well. One of my big irritants at the moment is the Bruno situation. I'm actually like I was at Seb's football today, and some of the dads there are like Wolves fans, Blues fans, etc. And they were talking about Man United, and we were talking about Bruno. And I said, I'm saying it publicly now. I think this needs to be his last game. Because anybody who says to me, you're mad, he's your best player, I'm like, I know he's our best player. And without him this season, where would we be? But that's this season. And we finished with 39 points. And without Bruno, we'd have been relegated. But we still finished 39 points with him. Are we going to build around him with no money? Or are we going to remove him and build a team with the money? And that's where I am at now. This is a new problem. Normally, get rid of them because they're not good enough. Easy. Yeah, get rid of them, they're not good enough. This is get rid of your best player because we haven't got any money. And we can't build around him because we haven't got any money. But if we remove him, we can build a new team. People keep going without Bruno, we'd be relegated. With Bruno, we've won nothing and got 39 points. And that's not his fault, but that's with him. So unless we're going to build around Bruno with 300 million quid, which we haven't got, well, we may as well remove Bruno and get that 300 million quid and build a team. And that's where I am. But the club seem to be struggling with that because the manager's going, I don't want to lose Bruno. A player you didn't fucking buy. Ollie bought him. You can get rid of him and build your own team. That's what you're here to do. I doubt very much that he was like, oh, Bruno Fernandes is central to my project. He doesn't even fit your system, if we're being honest, mate. I like Bruno. If we're keeping him, I'm going to back him. But where I am now, realistic, fed up with the club, lack of leadership, 39 points. We haven't got any money. That deal is ridiculous. We need to rebuild the club. I'm just waiting for a here we go just to feel better, Mark. I'm still reeling after Wednesday, says Truck. And do you think we'll ever have to sell Mainu? I think if Bruno stays, you should sell Mainu. Let's flip it the other way. If Bruno's staying, you should sell Mainu because, again, it's another 50 million quid. Where does Mainu fit in this team if Bruno stays? In fact, that is the mic drop. And I just want to say big up to Elian23. You've got to sell Bruno or Mainu. I'm not hearing anybody say this, but you have to. And I like both players. But we are Everton in the sense that we need to sell our better players now, otherwise we're dead. We need to build a team ASAP. You can't play Bruno and Mainu in the same team. It won't work because you've got to play Bruno as a 10 and Mainu as an 8, and we've got way too many players coming in like Cunha, and we've got Ahmad, and we've got Xerxes, and we've got Agate, and we've got Casemiro. They don't work in the same team. I don't see a team where Bruno and Mainu start in the same team anymore. So you don't need both. Neither of them wants to sit on the bench. So one of them's got to go. It's Mainu or Bruno. Mainu will give you £50 million of pure profit. Bruno will give you £100 million of pure profit. One's 31, one's 20. Make your choice. Make your choice. In fact, let's run a poll. If I'm the CEO and I'm saying to the fans, who would you sell out of those two? Just go for it. But I actually think that's the question. And if Amorim says Mainu and keeps Bruno, fine. If he says Bruno and keeps Mainu, fine. If he keeps both, I don't get that because I don't see them both playing in the same team. I don't think either of them are mobile enough to play as the 10. And I don't actually think Bruno's an 8. But I think Mainu is. So I personally think that Mainu's the one to keep and Bruno's the one to cash in on. Because Bruno's the master of all trades, but doesn't really have a position, whereas Mainu I actually think could fit the system. So that's what I would do. Plus, Mainu you could sell anyway for 100 million in 3 years' time. The way I'm looking at it is you've got a 6 next to Mainu, and then you've got Cunha, Ahmad behind a really good striker. That's my team. So I don't need Mainu and Bruno. People will be losing their shit about this. But these are the conversations you have to have when you're in the position we are. We're making cuts all around the team. People are being sacked. We can do without that. We can do without that. You can do 2 people's jobs instead of you 2 people doing it. Look at the team then. Why do we need Bruno and Mainu? We don't need both. We've got an offer for Bruno. We've got interest in Mainu. We don't need both. This is cuts for the right reason. I don't want to sell either of them. If we're in the Champions League, we don't need to. But where we are now, we don't have European football. We don't need to carry a big squad. We don't need both. We've got Collier as well. There are some young players coming through. We need one or the other. Simple as that. 85% of you would sell Bruno. 15% of you would sell Mainu. It's interesting, isn't it? Look, all I'm going to say is another fantastic show this morning. We're having these conversations. It's not just about transfer news. There's big conversations going on, and you are the people leading it. So absolute legends. Thank you very much this morning. Sorry I was a little bit late. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Countdown to kickoff will be around sort of 2:30, so not that long away. I will be live with you at 3:30 because it's a 4 o'clock kickoff. Then we've got our final match reaction. Make sure you register for the player ratings. And also, then it's the fan forum. And because there's so much to discuss at the moment, normally 4 o'clock game, 6 o'clock, match reaction 6:30, fan forum 7:30. Normally there won't be an 8 o'clock show. Tonight there is. There is. There's an 8 o'clock show tonight with me. So it's loads to get involved with on the United Stand today. Lots of conversation. Because we need the therapy and we need the conversation. We might get worse with Bruno anyway next season. And if that happens, Nigel, that'll be a big problem. I think that's unfair as well. And I just want to say I like Bruno. I don't want Bruno to go. But hard times need to hard decisions. We're not going to win a title with these owners, sadly, says Christian. Is Cunha a Bruno or Rashford replacement, says Sean. Rashford doesn't have a place in this team. He doesn't fit the system. I think Cunha is a number 10. I don't know who he's replacing, but can you believe Spurs are looking at Garnacho, says Aiden. He'd be a good player for Spurs. He fits the system. Be a very good player for Spurs. Look, I've said this before. We can't decide where a player's going to go if we don't want them. That's the whole point. You can't say we don't want you, but you're not going to go and perform elsewhere. Right, I'll see you all in a bit anyway. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll speak to you a little bit. Big day ahead. Let's see what it brings. Thanks for watching.